Hey, welcome to Mooney Reads. My name is Beck, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the second half of this month. I'm going to go ahead, in case the lighting is weird or the frame is weird. I just spent 10 minutes trying to figure out how to fix it. And I think it looks decent, but if I'm wrong, welcome to this video anyways, I guess. So, with this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I'm currently reading and talk about my reading plans for the second half of the month. Of course, I would still like to get to all of the books on the TBR that I established at the beginning, but I do have some things that I'm going to talk about that are specifically for readathons that we're going to be seeing the next couple weeks. But before I get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I'm in the middle of. Some of it looks different from my TBR. So I just thought I'd have a chat about it, since those are also things that I'll be doing in the next couple weeks. So to start off with, I'm still reading Love Beyond Space and Time, which I started last month, and I'm a pretty decent way into it. My plan is actually to finish it tonight if I can, so that I don't have to worry about it. We'll see how that goes. I would also like to finish at least one of these other ones tonight, but you know how it goes. I am also still reading The Undocumented Americans and Universal Harvester, which are also from last month. Of course, I still have the rest of the books that I started last month and didn't finish, but I'm not actively reading those. These are the ones that, like, even if I've only read a couple of pages, I've still read it this month, and I would like to make more progress on them. However, I do have a couple of books that are higher up on my priority list of currently reading than these two. But I still want to read them, get to them, what have you. Now, I have a couple of books that I've started in the past week or so. One of them was on my TBR from the beginning of the month, and that is The Color of Compromise by Jemar Tisby. I'm about 2 chapters into it. I actually have some vlog footage talking about this because I started reading it during Graphicathon. Those vlogs will be up after this video. I'm mostly done editing them, but combined it's like over an hour long, and it's a little bit overwhelming to go back and edit some of the things, so you might see that within the next week, hopefully. But I'm reading this looks at race in the church, and I also started Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Davis, which I believe was also on my TBR. This is the other one that I hope to finish tonight, if possible, if not tomorrow. I am, I think, a little past the halfway mark. I'm on page 87 out of 158. Y'all can do the math because I can't. Not willingly, not on camera. But if you don't include the index, it's 145 pages. And I'm pretty sure this is half the pathway point if you're looking at it that way. So, I have these. Hopefully, this will be done soon, but I will still want to work on this throughout the rest of the month. And now we can get into TBRs. So, the first thing that starts is Tome Topple. Tome Topple takes place from the 14th to the 27th, and the goal is to read books that are larger than 500 pages. Now, I'm really bad with big books. I made a video about being in the middle of like 20 books, so clearly my attention span is not the best. However, I do have one book that I would like to read, and I'm actually going to sit down, like this is what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to sit down and plan out how much I need to read each day, which is not something that I've done before, but I think it will be good, even though I probably won't follow it. It'll still give me guidelines. But I would like to read How to Survive a Plague, The Inside Story of How Citizens and Science Tamed AIDS by David France. So this is on my HIV and AIDS topical TBR. And it's looking at history. It goes through ACT UP, which I've previously read about with Moving Politics, which was another tome, and it took me like 4 months to read. Hopefully I can get this one done in 2 weeks. But this basically looks through the 80s and 90s, the trajectory of activism, and how kind of we got where we are today, or at least where we were in 2016. So that's my only Tome Topple read. Next, we can talk about the Transathon, which starts on the 16th. It runs from the 16th to the 29th. And for this, I also have just the one book, which is Surpassing Certainty by Janet Mock. I read Redefining Realness by Janet Mock a few years ago, and I remember enjoying it. I remember liking her writing style and found her story really engaging, so it will be interesting to see what ended up happening after that. The first one was looking at like her childhood and adolescence, and I think this focuses more on her adult life. So that is all for the Transathon. I know they have 2 group books that they're doing, but I've already read Cemetery Boys, and as lovely as it would be to reread, it would not be smart. And then the other book that they have, I just don't own a copy of, so I'm not going to be reading it. Then we have the Queer Lit Readathon, which runs from November 29th to December 5th. Depending on how I read Surpassing Certainty, maybe I could count it for this readathon, but hopefully I'll get it done early on so I can, like, add books or something. That's a nice thought. But the books that I have planned for the Queer Lit Readathon include Naamah, which I started a couple of months ago, and I just never got around to finishing, so I want to finish that. This is a retelling of the Noah's Ark story focused around Noah's wife. It's very queer and very metaphysical. But it counts for background romance, adult fiction, non-coming out, and a retelling because it's a biblical retelling. Then I'm going to be reading Tinderbox, which is also on my TBR for this month. So hopefully I'll maybe be able to read a little bit more before the Queer Lit Readathon starts, but no guarantees. And this is another one that I started a while back that I would like to finish. This focuses on the New Orleans upstairs lounge fire, which was a hate crime and arson that happened in New Orleans in the 70s. This fits the prompts for adult fiction or nonfiction. The question mark, or choose your own, which we will call queer history. And I'm thinking that Tinderbox also could technically count for queer friends, because the group, one of the groups that was really impacted by this was like a church, and a lot of the people in it were very close, so you're kind of learning about people's relationships in this as well. So it's maybe a grim take on queer friends, but it technically does fit that. Then I'm going to be reading The Wicked and the Divine, which is the first of a comic book series. It's supposed to be very queer. I have it down for a non-coming out story. Arrow Ace, main character, according to the internet. I'm not certain about it because I haven't read it. It also counts for BIPOC main character, queer friends, and a graphic novel. I'm not sure if it counts for the pre or non-medical transition prompt because I haven't read the book yet, but it certainly doesn't focus it on transition, so I'm not super sure. And the final book that I want to read, I'm gonna have to figure out where I put it. Hopefully I'm still in the shot because my phone fell. But the final book that I'm going to be reading for the Queer Lit Readathon is Any on My Mind by Nancy Garden. I'm honestly not 100% sure what happens in this. I don't really know the plot. I just know it's gay. And kind of sad, but also not. Maybe. I think sad stuff happens, but I don't think the ending is sad. This fits in with Own Voices because this is written by, I think, a lesbian. If not, then definitely a woman who is in a relationship with another woman. It gives me winter vibes because of that cover. And, yeah, I think that's all for Any on My Mind. Those are my reading plans for the second half of the month. Of course, I hope to get to my other TBR books as well, but, you know, this is kind of a lot. I may actually show you all what my plans for going through How to Survive a Plague are once I get those set up. If I do that, I'll insert that here.
Alright, this is Beck from the next day with how I'm going to read How to Survive a Plague. So, I split it up into 13 sections. Now, the reason I did 13 instead of 14 when there were 14 days is that I work a really long shift today. So I'm just going to let myself have this day. I plan on reading, but I'm not going to, like, set a page limit, so, you know, I can get ahead or whatever. But this is roughly 39 pages per section. The end, I think, is a little bit longer because I miscounted, but who's surprised? Not me. So each one of these, where the sticky note is, in theory, should be the last page that I read. It's not always going to look like that. For instance, I'm not going to stop on the last page of a chapter, so, you know, it's flexible. I'm giving myself some space, but this is like the, basically marker of, like, how I'm going. And this actually seems a lot more manageable if you break it up into chunks like this, so maybe I should do that more often and manage to get through big books. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to be vlogging this, so you can see how I do.
So that is all that I have for this video. If you've read any of these, please let me know what you thought about them. And if you plan on participating in the Transathon, Tome, Topple, or Queerlit Readathon, let me know what your plans are. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye.